So over the weekend, update 1.19 was added to the common test, and with it brought new equipment. Now the first thing that I'm going to say is, why have they moved this and swapped these over? Because it is incredibly annoying. Because every single time that I want to go and look at bounty equipment now, I've instinctively gone up to the top right, and now it's at the top left. Very annoying. However, no one cares about my little annoyances. Experimental equipment. Now all of these pieces of equipment, they are two pieces of equipment put into one. The primary one is going to be the one that is giving the most out of it, right? So there's going to be, for example, the survival one gives you HP boost and config. The HP boost is going to be the one that you get the most out of. So it's going to be the closest to a normal HP boost rather than to a normal config. And the same goes for each one of these. So for example, the mobility one is going to be a turbo and IRM. The primary one is going to be a turbo. The fire control system is going to be a GLD and a V-stab, the primary one being GLD. The reason why I bring these up with primary and secondary is that you can put another secondary equipment in there with this. You cannot put the primary one though. So for example, using the HP boost one, I would not be able to put HP boost on my tank if I already have this piece of equipment. I would be able to put config on it though. If, as you can see here, when we select it, and then go back to, say, standard equipment, I cannot then go into the second slot here and choose HP boost, but I can choose a config. The exact same thing goes for if I'm using the mobility one, which is going to be a turbo and IRM, the primary one being the turbo. If I go to the secondary slot, I cannot put another turbo in there, but I can put IRM. And lastly, just to show you, I cannot use GLD, but I can use a V-stab. Now, one thing to note, that these do not get the bonuses the exact same way that the bounty or the bonded equipment do not get the bonuses from the slot. So there is no point putting them in the slot if you have other pieces of equipment that you want the bonuses from. You're much better off just putting these in a slot that doesn't give any bonus, because you will not get the bonus from putting them in the slot anyway. Now, one thing that is really, really nice is that tanks like the 279 that do get blown up a lot no longer need config, and they can actually use this module. So instead of running the config, you can just quickly switch out, and now you can use this because the extra ammo rack durability is there on your tank. You could even go a little bit safer and choose the safe stowage directive as well if you really wanted to. Note that obviously the directive for the pre-battle maintenance doesn't work because you do not have the actual config on your tank. Now, obviously, one thing that I do want to mention is that you could still get blown up in one shot using this. It's going to be incredibly unlikely, and you're going to have to be very unlucky, but you could still get blown up in one shot. Also, the two-tap kind of thing can happen. By the two-tap, I mean where you lose your ammo rack in the first shot, and then the next shot enters your tank, and you get detonated because the ammo rack was already damaged. That can still happen with this module. One thing that it will never happen with is with config. Now, I don't know whether or not that's going to be worth it for the ultra competitive players, because if you're talking about like very, very competitive, like tournament kind of things, is it worth it? I don't know. Because, I mean, in competitive, you remove the stab completely, and then you either go turbo or HP, depending on the map. Most of the time, that's HP. And then you have both of them. And you can go stabless with 279, it's not too bad. But for randoms, I think, like, this is the new meta. Like, completely. If you have a 279, this is what you should be using. Because you're not going to get ammo racked unless you're super unlucky. You still have all the HP boost. And you can run stabs. It's super nice. And it's not just for the 279. Like, 60TP, 705A, any tank that gets very, very easily ammo racked is going to benefit from this. Okay, so we've spoken about the survivability. And now let's speak about the other pieces of equipment that are in the game. That being the fire control system and the mobility improvement system. Mobility improvement system, I don't really see too much of a use for it. Yeah, sure, you could probably put it on like, I don't know, like an E3 or the S-Conk, or even like the 50B to improve the stability again. But especially like the S-Conk, where you're not going to have the bonus obviously from the stabs. Not that you need it, because you can easily play this game without a stab on the S-Conk. The exact same thing goes for the AMX. This is more than enough. But having that extra bit of traverse speed as well is super nice to have, especially on tanks that are really slow. So the S-Conk, yep, that works. The exact same thing goes for if you don't use vents. So you can use HP boost, and then you can then put that on, and you have something like that. And that works super well. Besides that, I don't see any point of using the fire control system. It kind of seems like a worthless module. And yes, you could go and use the two together. So, for example, if you want to have the, the survival improvement system, obviously I can't put the tier 3 one on because it's on the 279 at the moment, but you could put the tier 3 one on. Is it really worth it though? If you're going to be using the tier 3, it's 100% worth it because you do actually get a better bonus from having the survival improvement than you do with the standard one. So just quickly, for example, the tier 3 one gives obviously 11.5% and it's going to be rounded up. So that's going to give you 12%. And it's also going to give you 70% to suspension durability. The standard HP boost is only going to give you 10% hit points and 65% to suspension durability. So that's actually going to give you quite a bit more. So you go from having 2,720, which is exactly the same as you would get with a tier 2, to then having 2,760, which is just, well, it's not a lot more, but it obviously is better, especially with the suspension durability improvements. Does this replace HP boost? No. The tier 3 one, yes, like 100%. If you have HP boost on any tank, this survivability improvement is going to be better than a standard HP boost. If you have Bond HP boost though, it will not replace it because the Bond HP boost is going to give you 12.5% to hit points and 75% to suspension durability. And that is going to be rounded up, so it's going to be rounded up to 13%. Which means that if we put that onto the Super Conk, it will get 2,790 compared to 2,760. Not to mention that is also going to increase the repair time a lot better than the tier 3 one would. So if you already have improved HP boost and you don't need the config aspect of it, there's no point of, throwing that out. Now the fire control system, which is the last part, I don't know what you're going to put this on. And before you say, put it on artillery, if we go and do that, I cannot put it on artillery. That is because it does not have the ability to have a V-stab on it. If it does not have the part 2 or the part 1 of a system that is the experimental module, it will not be able to put on the tank. The exact same way that I cannot put Bond HP onto this tank because it cannot fit it. The fire control system is a little bit of a mystery to me because I can't put it on a turretless TD because it can't put V-stab. To show it, here is all the equipment that I can put on an E3. Notice fire control system is not there. I can't even put it on a Gorilla 15. So I really don't see the point of it. The aim time is irrelevant most of the time. Like, oh wow. I mean, sure, I could put it on my Chief. And let's say that we have this and then this. I get minus 11.5% from the V-stab part of it, right? So obviously the dispersion values. And then plus 9% to aiming speed. The aiming speed is already insane on the Chief. Like, there's no point. Look at the difference. Why would you ever pick this over a V-stab? Because look at what the V-stab does. 27.5% with bonded. And if I want to use the standard one, it's going to give it 20%. Even the tier 3 value is not anywhere close to being the standard value of the second one. So I really don't see the point in this. You might as well just remove this from the game or dramatically change what this actually gives you. Because in the current state, it's not worth anything. Which now brings me on to my final issue with these modules, and that is, how do we get them? Because we're going to need quite a bit to be able to upgrade them. To upgrade them, the way that you do it is by dismantling whatever you've already got. Yes, you might say, oh, well, you got 5,100 components. Well, yes, I do have that many, but that is because you get given them through missions on the test server. In the live server, I have no idea how we're going to get these. And they don't even tell you how to get them when you hover over it. So as you can see here, it just says, can be received for disassembling the experimental equipment. Components are needed for upgrading experimental equipment. That is it. That's the only thing you get. I'm guessing there'll be a game mode or something, or a way of getting them. But if you have to dismantle them to be able to upgrade them, you're going to have to go through quite a lot. Because as you can see, let's say that I want to upgrade from tier 1. If I upgrade this, it's going to cost 400. If I dismantle one of these, so we click get components up here, and let's say that I want to dismantle this tier 1, I get 100 components from one of them. So I will need 4 of these to upgrade, technically 5 actually, because you will need one that you want to upgrade to actually get a level 2 version. If I want to upgrade the level 2 version, it costs 2,000, which is obviously 20 of them. And that's 20 new ones, because you cannot include this one that you already have. And let's say that I wanted to get rid of one of them, right? It will only do 400 for the tier 2. So you get 400 back if, say, you upgrade the wrong one. Because you can disassemble any of these and upgrade as you wish, right? It's going to give you the same. It's going to give you 400, 100, whatever. So you're going to have to be very careful with how you upgrade them, and very careful with which ones you actually disassemble, because you do not want to disassemble the wrong one. This is only 100 loss, so it's not too bad. But when you get up to this, remember, you've spent 400 upgrading it. You've then spent 2,000 upgrading it, and you only get 1,600 back. That is nearly a 1,000 loss if you upgrade the wrong one. Although it's going to be extremely hard to upgrade the wrong one, let's be honest. You'll see that down here I have active on other vehicles. So on the S-Conch, I could click this and then click continue, and I will be disassembling from the S-Conch when I'm in this screen on the 279. Although this is a nice feature to have, I would rather it be grayed out completely to save you accidentally disassembling something that is already on a different tank that you've set up. And another thing which is just absolutely fantastic on this is that if you want to dismount this and move it to another tank, it will cost you 100 components, which is a whole piece of equipment just to move it. So here's what I'm going to tell you. On tanks like the 279 that get blown up super easy, it's worth it. Worth it 100% to put this on it, depending on how you get them. Maybe we'll get them very easily, but let's be honest, this is wargaming. It's probably going to be quite hard to actually get your hands on a lot of these once they go into a live server. And that's purely speculation, right? That's not a fact. Okay, I have no idea how these get put into the game. But judging from how new equipment gets put in, it's usually like when there was the Bond equipment, right? We had to grind our ass off in, you know, Road to Berlin or whatever just to get a piece of equipment. And we had to grind our ass off in Onslaught to get one piece of Bond equipment, which was the Bond Turbo. To get these is probably going to be quite hard. And you're probably only going to get one tier 3 at best. So I'd put it on a tank that you really know it needs it on. Because here's the thing. On most tanks, the normal HP boost is going to be more than enough. On most tanks, the normal turbo is going to be more than enough. It's just a little bit of a nice to have with this turbo. And the one thing that is actually worth it is the actual survivability module, right? This is actually worth getting and upgrading, at least at the moment from what I'm seeing, because this gives you the best out of all of them. And just be aware that just because something new is coming into the game does not mean that you need it, okay? You may love playing the Chief or the S-Conch with vents from a V-stab, right? Go for it. No one's stopping you, right? You might love playing it with turbo. Continue, because this is going to give you exactly the same amount. If you have a Bond turbo already, there's no point changing this to go and put an experimental module on it, right? This is going to be 10 times better than if you had the experimental one. Well, not 10 times, but you know what I mean. So just because something is new does not automatically mean that you need to do it and you need to complete it and you need it on every single tank, okay? Just be aware of that, because you could get wrapped up in this very easily thinking that you need all of this when you actually don't. On some tanks, yes, like the 279, 100% worth it. On others, what we have at the moment is probably better. So let me know down below what you think, and I'll see you all in the next video.